Can you actually make six figures working in safety? Well, wait a minute, back up. How much does a safety manager actually make? In this episode, we're going to talk about something that nobody ever wants to talk about. We're going to talk about exactly how much money you can make in the world of safety. And yes, you can make more than $100,000 a year. In fact, you can make a lot more than that if you know what you need to know. So in this episode, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to tell you how you can get in that top tier and how you can be making more a year from now than you are now. And not just that, but a lot more. Because it shouldn't be a secret. You should know the roadmap you need to take to get into that upper tier. Stick around. This episode is going to be incredibly helpful. I'm looking forward to it. Well, hey, friend, my name is David Sawyer. I'm a safety coach. I help busy safety managers go from feeling overwhelmed to OSHA ready. I want to help you prevent accidents and avoid an unexpected OSHA audit. I want to relieve a little bit of stress, but also in this episode, I want to show you how to make more money as a safety manager. Now, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you look at David Sawyer, Help with OSHA, you can find me on there. Please reach out, message me. I'm always looking forward to meeting more safety managers, and hopefully this show is helpful to you. As we jump into this, I'm going to unpack the three different layers of safety managers. And before I do that, I want to tell you a really quick story, because this is a true story. It happened to me, and it's something that just I couldn't help but think about it as I was preparing for this episode, talking about money. You see, I've got four kids. And I remember when I was a safety manager at a company, I was not making very much money. I wasn't making enough money to support my kids and my family, and that was a bad feeling because I felt like I was doing more than I should be doing to be making the money I was making. And you've probably felt like that before, but at the time I think I had two kids. I might have had my third baby just around that time. And I can remember I had been working at the company ever since I had one child. I won't go through all the ages, but basically I had one child that was a baby when I started working at the company. He was probably maybe 9-10 months old. And I worked there, and he got older, and then we had another baby, and she got older, and then we were ready to have our third baby, and we had that realization, like we're not making enough money to really be having, all these bills and diapers and all the stuff that goes with having babies. And my wife was a teacher. She was a first grade and a kindergarten teacher during that time, not at the same time, just during those years. And I remember having to have that uncomfortable conversation with the owner of the company. See, I was working for a company. We had probably right around 90 employees, and the owner of the company had hired me, and he had brought me in as a safety manager, but then he had given me a lot of other responsibilities. He had put me in charge of different regulatory paperwork. It was food safety. It was EPA. I turned into EHS. I turned into quality. I was wearing a lot of hats. I had a lot of responsibilities. And I think I was pretty typical of a safety manager because I was the person in the plant that was just kind of trustworthy. And I say that humbly because I've always wanted to be that kind of person. But I think people saw me and they're like, hey, we can give David this work. He'll do a good job on it. And if he does a good job on it, then we'll give him a little bit more work, and we'll give him a little bit more money. And so I found my responsibilities going way up and my pay increase not keeping up with the responsibilities. Ultimately, that's why I left that company, because I wanted to start my own business and I wanted to be able to be compensated what I was worth. So that's kind of the end game. But I remember before I got to that point, I had a meeting with the owner of the company, and it was it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a formal thing, but he had called me in, and honestly, I can't remember if I requested it or if it was a kind of an annual review type thing. Because again, we were a smaller company, so it wasn't that formal of a process. But I can remember he gave me a raise, and it wasn't. It was basically a cost of living raise. Like, it wasn't anything to brag about, and I was disappointed because I felt like I deserved more, and the company was also structured so we'd get bonuses, but that year we didn't get a bonus because we didn't hit our targets. Now, mind you, I wasn't in production, so I had no skin in the game to get that target. I just got, I didn't get the money. And I can remember all that weighing on me. So think about where you are. Have you ever felt that before, where you're like, I need to make more money. I've got a growing family, and I'm not getting compensated like I should. And I remember he gave me this raise. And the thing that I remember was he acted like he was doing me a favor. And he gave me this kind of this little pep talk, which was the worst pep talk in history, because he said something along the lines of, hey, you're doing a good job. I just want you to know, like, this, you're pretty much at the top. Like, you're pretty much capped out of what you're going to make here, but we are so happy to have you on board. You're doing a good job. And I walked out of his office, and I remember thinking, did he just tell me that I've capped out and I'm not going to be making more money? And I'm not, this isn't enough for me now. And so I ended up getting a consulting job with another company on the side just to pay for childcare. So I'm being completely open because I felt like, man, I ended up having to get a side hustle, a side job, a part-time consulting job with another company because I wasn't making enough to pay for childcare. Now, we weren't living extravagantly. We just weren't making enough money. And we ended up saving and pinching and saving and pinching pennies. And I broke off and started my own business because I knew I wanted to make more money and I wanted to have more control over my time. And that's what I did. But before I did that, I realized this isn't working for me. Now, in hindsight, that was over 10 years ago that happened. And I look back on it as something that happened in the past, and it really shaped the way I view money and salary and benefits. And most importantly, that feeling of somebody doing me a favor when I know I'm doing a great job for them. And that's what, when you're working for a company, you're giving them your time, your energy, your effort, your skills, your knowledge, and you need to be compensated for that. So keep that in mind as we go through this, because that really shaped the way I think about money and effort and work. And these are the three different tiers. I want to break down the three different tiers of safety management. Now, the first tier is usually somebody that works at a company and they have between 50 and 150 employees, and you're in the stage where you're a safety manager, but you might be called a safety technician or a safety specialist. You're doing the work. You're doing the training. You're doing the inspections. You're out on the floor. You're doing, and you're usually one person. This is kind of the starting point into safety, and you're kind of learning as you're going. And some people stay here because they feel comfortable. Honestly, that's where I was. I was in the doing stage, and I was doing so much safety and doing so much things that my boss was giving me more stuff to do because I was doing a good job at it. So he was saying, hey, you're doing a great job on safety. Make sure you do this quality thing too. You're doing a good job on safety. We want you to be involved with environmental and start taking stormwater. You're doing a good job. I was doing. So that's the first tier is the stage, and sometimes it's called safety technician or safety coordinator. It's basically a safety manager that's in the doing aspect of things. Now, the next stage is where you typically graduate into a little bit bigger company and you become a safety manager over other people. So typically this is 150 to 500 employees and you are leading other people. So you might have somebody working with you that is doing paperwork or inspections, or they're doing the training part of it. You're more of a coordinator. You're more of doing multiple things because you have a lot of people. And so that's typically that second tier. Oh gosh, I didn't even give you the money. Let me give you the money. I'm so sorry. I was thinking, so that the first tier where you're the doer, you're usually making between $50,000 and $70,000. Now, keep in mind, different parts of the country, this can change, but you can punch this into Google and you can kind of find out averages for safety specialist, safety technician, but typically it's between about 50 and 70 grand a year. Once you move into that middle stage, that leading stage, that's where you're making between 70 and 100 usually, because you're managing, you have more responsibility, you have people under you. So typically you're making between 70 and 100. And then the last stage is typically moving up into strategy, and you're a director. You're somebody that might be over multiple sites. You might have more than 500 employees, and you're coordinating with other managers, and you're kind of running several different departments. I mean, you're running the safety department, but you're running multiple safety departments at multiple places. So that gets you in the tier where you're making usually between $100,000 and $170,000. Now, obviously, there's people that make more than that depending on where they are. But here's the thing I want you to know. The money is tied to the responsibilities you have. Let me say that again, because this is something I wish I knew when I was 25 years old. The money is tied to the responsibilities you have. So if you are responsible for 25 people at a small plant, you're not going to be making the same money as somebody that's responsible for 700 people at multiple facilities. Okay? When you own safety, you own the people's health and safety that are working for you. The higher the severity of hazards, the higher the hazards, the more money, the more people, the more money, the more facilities, the more money, the more responsibilities, the more money. So if you think that range I just told you between 50 and 150 plus is completely understandable, because when you have less employees, you're going to have less responsibilities. When you have more employees, more places, you're going to have more responsibilities. The money follows the responsibilities. So when I was at the company I was at, they gave me a lot of responsibilities, and the money did not increase with the responsibilities. And that's ultimately why I left. And that happens at growing companies. It does. It just happens. The owner of the company, the manager of the company is not going to want to pay you as much as you want to get paid. That's just the nature of it, right? But you can work for excellent companies and they're going to pay you what you deserve to be paid. So with that in mind, I want to tell you 4 things you can do to raise your value, because the more responsibilities you have, the more money you're going to make. The more value you contribute, the more money you're going to make. It's a trade-off. That's what business is, right? You're giving your time, your skill, your knowledge, your effort, your passion, and your employer is compensating you for that. Money is one of the compensations, but it's a big part of it. It's a very big part of it. Now, let's talk about the 4 things you can do to grow. But before I do that, I want to tell you, don't forget, if you are at the beginning of this stage and you don't know what to do, start here. Go to my website, helpwithosha.com, and access a free OSHA audit checklist. This is the starting place. This is where you need to go. You can log in, not log in. You can access the checklist. And when you access the checklist, it'll pull up a video, and it's me going through and showing you what you need to do to prepare your company for an unexpected OSHA audit. This checklist is a great place to get started. And from there, you'll learn more and more and more about what you can do to grow. You see, I mentioned the 3 different tiers. The people that I work with the most, like my sweet spot, is where I was 10 years ago. It's that one person safety manager, that solo safety manager that is feeling overwhelmed because they got so much to do and they don't know where to start and they don't have a roadmap. I'm telling you, start here. Go to my website, helpwithosha.com, access a free OSHA audit checklist, and get started today. This is the best place to actually feel like, whew, all right, I'm making steps in the right direction. Now, if you're enjoying this video, please like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. But even more than that, if you're like, I don't really, I'm listening to these videos, I'm listening to the podcast, I'm enjoying David. If you feel like that, please share this with another manager. Share it with a safety manager. Just shoot a video of this over and say, hey, I found this guy. He seems to be talking our language. I want to make sure we get the word out. All right. Now, back to the topic at hand. Let's talk about the 4 ways that you can raise your value and make more money. This is how you make more money. Are you ready? Number 1, you have to be curious about your company and how you can help. You've got to learn more. You've got to educate yourself so that you're learning more and you can be more helpful. As an example, when I broke into the business got out of college and started working, I was working at a boat manufacturing facility. And at the boat company, we had all kinds of chemicals. We had resin and catalyst and gel coat. We had all kinds of acetone and paint thinners. And I mean, there was chemicals everywhere. And I remember thinking, I need to learn about these chemicals. And the safety data sheets were there. The labels were there. The storage. How do we store them? How do we use them? That was like one of our biggest hazards was the chemicals. So understanding, hey, what do we need to be doing with these chemicals to manage them safely? That was a big part of it. But not just that, because I was fascinated about boat building and fiberglass. I remember working a whole day in the lamination department with the lamination crew, hand rolling fiberglass and working. And it was hot. I was in a Tyvek suit, right? I was wearing my gloves, going through, rolling fiberglass. And that experience, I learned what the people were dealing with on the floor. When I moved into food processing, I was working at a company where they did some nasty work. And one day, in the first few months of my job, I did a whole shift working with the people on the line to learn what they were dealing with so that I could build some camaraderie with the guys, but also learn what they were really facing. So the first step to make more money is to learn your business. Get curious, not just about safety, of course about safety, but also get curious about the people, about the process, about the hazards, about what people face on a daily basis. When you get curious about the business, you'll learn specifics that can really help you. Plus, you'll build relationships with people, and that always helps too. Number 2, to be more valuable, you've got to crave more responsibility. And this is something in this day and age, man, this is so valuable, so valuable. I can't tell you, it's the way I'm wired. I always want to do more. It's just how I am. And I remember the first time I got around a group of people that were just doing the bare minimum to get by. I came in, I was like a ball of fire. I was 23, 24-year-old, and I was doing stuff. And I can remember one of the older guys kind of pulled me aside, and he basically said, hey, chill. We get paid by the hour. You don't have to break your neck to do more work. Slow it down. You're making us look bad, right? And I remember thinking, oh, this is awkward because this guy is telling me I need to slow down so he doesn't look bad. And I want to keep going and keep doing work. So I learned, okay, I want more responsibility. So when that position came available, I wanted to take it. When something came up, I wanted to take it. Don't turn away from more responsibility. Turn into it. That's how you're going to go up that ladder. Turn into it. Now, the third way that you can make more money, and this is probably the biggest shift. You've got to grow in leadership. So I've met lots of safety professionals that know safety, and they've learned safety and they've poured into safety, but they don't know leadership or communication. I am telling you right now, me and you, one-on-one, this is like we're just drinking coffee in the coffee shop right now. If you want to make more money in your career, you've got to get good at communicating and you've got to get good at leadership. So pick up some John Maxwell books. Pick up some communication books about how to lead meetings, how to hold presentations, how to be a public speaker. If you improve at your communication skills and you improve at your leadership skills, the money will follow. The money will follow. Now, the fourth way that you go up that ladder, are you ready? This is where people go, I don't know if I can do that one. You have to be willing to walk away. The best way to get a raise is to go to another company. The best way to make more money is to go to another company. I've seen, in my own career, I've seen managers that have honed their skills in one place and they go work somewhere else for a year and they get a bump up in pay, and then they go somewhere else and they get a bump up in pay, and then they go somewhere else, they get a bump up in pay. You can make more money going to another facility, another company, learning what you can learn, growing where you can learn, getting certified where you can get certified, and then moving on to that next company. But I caution you, I give you a word of caution. Make sure you're not just chasing the dollar. This is all about money, and we're talking about how to make more money, but make sure you're not just chasing more money. You want to be chasing a lifestyle that you actually like. Personally, I didn't want to be a safety director where I knew I'd have to work in another location. I remember when I worked for Smithfield Foods, one of the people told me, hey, if you want to move up, you're going to need to move to Virginia. And immediately I thought, I don't want to move to Virginia. I am happy right here in Eastern North Carolina. I got family nearby. This is where I want to raise my kids. I want to stay here. So rather than chasing that money and getting a job someplace I didn't want to live, I decided to work where I am now. And it was probably a slower path, but I'm happier where I am now. So I wanted to caution you on that because you don't want to just chase the money, but you have to be willing to leave. That's why I left the story I started with. That's why I left the company I was at, because I had so much responsibility and the money didn't match up with it. I didn't feel valued. I didn't feel appreciated. And I said, man, I'm out of here. And that's what happens, right? Don't they I think there's a famous saying where they say, people don't quit the job, they quit the manager. People don't quit the job, they quit how they feel around that manager. And I didn't feel like I was being appreciated, so I left. Now, I'm not saying they're bad people. It just wasn't a good fit anymore. But I'll tell you a secret as a side note. Again, just me and you having a cup of coffee here. I found out that they hired 2 people to replace me when I left. And that felt good because I thought I was worth 2 people, but they were paying me the price of 1. So anyway, that's just kind of a side note to let you in on. All right, let me recap those 4 things so you can make more money. Number 1, Get curious, learn more about your organization, about the jobs, about the people, and about the hazards. Learn. Number 2, grab more responsibility. Ask for more responsibility. Become more valuable at your company, and the money will follow. Number 3, this is a big one. Grow in communication skills and grow in leadership skills. Start reading some leadership books. Start reading some John Maxwell. Start reading some communication books talking about things like how to win friends and influence people, right? Read books that grow those soft skills, because leadership and communication, man, they are so incredibly valuable. And then the 4th one, be willing to leave. Be willing to walk away. All right? Those are the 4 ways you move up that ladder. You can make a lot of money in safety, but you've got to be willing to invest in yourself. I'll just tell you, that's one of the things I see when I work with new safety managers. The people that are successful are the people that say, I'm worth this. I am worth investing in myself. So when you go out and you find a John Maxwell book or a leadership book, a business book, and the company goes, oh, well, we're not going to buy that for you. Or you find an online course and you're like, I want to take this course. And the company goes, we're not going to do that for you. Or you find a certification and you're like, hey, I want to get certified. I want to go through this OSHA training course and I want to learn more about this, but the company's not willing to pay for it. You have to be willing to invest in yourself. I'll tell you one more story, because this one just bounced in my head and it's so relevant. I was working as a safety coach with a manager, and this manager had been at the company for over 10 years. He was very comfortable. He was kind of in a rut, and he wanted to move up. He wanted to make more money. And I remember him saying, I'm just so frustrated. They won't pay to get me certified in this. And I looked at him, and I know I'm not a good poker player, so I'm sure I looked at him like he had 3 eyeballs on the top of his head. And I looked at him and I said, you do it. You pay for it. You invest in yourself. You have got to be willing to invest in yourself if you want to grow. And this is the same whether I'm talking to you and you're 25 or you're 65. If you want to grow, if you want to mature, if you want to get more money, invest in yourself. That's the best investment you can make. It pays more than property. It pays more than stocks and bonds. It pays more than the raise you're going to get at your company. It pays more than the raise you get at your company because it stays with you. And again, you might could leave somewhere else. You might could do something on the side. You might could grow. You want to grow. You want to become more. All right. Having said all that, I want to thank you so much for your time today. This was a longer episode than I thought. I probably could have broken it into a 2-parter, but I get passionate about this. And like you can see, I got some personal stories that go along with it. You are worth investing in yourself. Invest in yourself. Learn. Communication. Leadership. Learn. Get curious. Grab responsibility. You can do this. You can do this. All right. With that being said, until we talk again, go right now, download my free OSHA audit checklist. That's a great place to start. And then reach out to me on LinkedIn. Love to hear from you. Love to hear what you thought of this episode. Leave a comment below. Share this with somebody. Pass it on. And please, until we talk again, do everything you can to keep the people you work with safe, because no one should get hurt at work.